Hi there, gang. Dr. J, Steve Jensen from the National Sales Academy and Impact Training. And guess what? It is Sales and Business Tips Wednesday. And today I've got a bit of a treat for you. I always bring on the best people, don't I? Oh, well, I reckon I do anyway. And today I'm going to be speaking to a really close friend of mine. And I've known Travis now for plus 15 years. And I've known him from being an outstanding presenter and also a sales professional, but also who went into the area of marketing, but also goes into businesses and helps entrepreneurs. Plus, one of the big things that he's done, he owns his own companies. He's a director of a chain of clubs. Plus, he also goes into companies outside the fitness industry and also all around the world to help them see things a little bit differently. So I'll let him explain it to you. So welcome, Travis. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Look, I want to start off with a little bit of background about Travis. Tell our listeners and our members a little bit about who Travis is and a little bit of your journey. I know it's been quite worldly, but we'll keep it short.
But it has been an entertaining journey. So essentially, like most people, finished school and then moved into university, studied Bachelor of Business major in marketing and also commerce. So business has always been a very strong passion of mine. On top of that as well, getting out of university, I started to work for I guess in the entrepreneurial space as a assistant, with a fair chunk of anything between online businesses. And it sort of opened up, and this would have been nearly 16 to 17 years ago, opened up the online space. And it was always something I was quite passionate and interested in as well, the ability to reach not only the people in a general network, but to expand past that. So then after that, I decided to jump into the fitness industry. Love fitness. It was always a passion of mine. And then what sort of drew me out of the fitness industry is the passion for fitness business. So went on to own my own chain of personal training studios and sort of grow and develop. But after I exited that company, I started to look at different things that I wanted to get into. And once again, business and growth was sort of my key core passion. I was very well versed in sales and also sort of consumer behavior and communications. So I sort of cross-sectioned those skills into digital marketing, started working in the agency circuit, growing into strategy and also one of the heads of strategy, and started working overseas within the US, UK, Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, New Zealand, and right across Australia. So, but it's been a sort of big 15 to 17 years watching the digital space sort of grow, develop, and different trends. And here we are today. I now get to work with companies as a trusted partner, sit on their side of the table, have a look, pull apart, look at the foundations, their customer journeys, their buyer behaviors, and start to look at implementing and growing and scaling that business. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, very sort of short and brief, what I do now.
Well, that's terrific. And you were saying you did a lot of stuff overseas as well as in Australia. I'd just like to ask you a first question on this one. When you're working with businesses in Australia, because you go into the business, you don't just go online and have a chat with you. You go into the business, you do a strategic model, and then help them implement it. Similar with Impact Training Corporation, where we go in and do the sales stuff. You actually go into the company and peel it back and actually create a model, which is not just a quick fix, but also a strategic model to allow you to have lead gen, brand awareness, and you work with that business intimately. So you've been to Hong Kong, you've been to America and Australia. How are those markets different? I mean, everyone says they can come to Australia and rule the world because they've done it overseas, but you've actually had the experience of being in different countries. Is it the same or is it different in Australia?
Mate, absolutely not. Australia is a very unique market, based on scale and also volume. You look at the population of Australia compared to the US, it's literally just a drop in the pond. It depends on what sort of market you're operating in within, the APAC region, even New Zealand. Consumer buyers interact with brands a lot differently. In Australia, it's more trust and credibility. It's who we're raised to be, camaraderie. Whereas in the US, it's more of a volume play as well, because there is such a strong population over there. You can have a business gain success based on population and consumer needs. So yeah, no, I originally a sort of younger, naive Travis went, because everyone's big dream is to launch into the US market, right? Like it's the big market, everyone wants to be there. But consumer buyers and even the way that they build digital campaigns or assets is completely different to how we do it here in Australia. So no market is the same. I don't believe it is.
Well, I tend to concur, because as you know, and most of the guys in the SAC and also the Sales Success Club, I worked all around the world. And the sales model is based on the soft skills. Well, they can actually be taught in a certain way, but the hard skill model is slightly different in all different genres. But it's still working in that marketing and brand awareness type scenario. And people do come over to Australia with these big, how can we say, ideas that they're going to really take, what do they say? We're going to take the market by storm, and then it stalls. So what is one of the reasons, and what are the guys in Australia, our clients and new ones, what should they do differently in Australia? What is critical? Two major things that we must do to, let's say, do good lead gen and make sure that our brand or our business is generating the leads that are necessary.
Mate, it's a really good tip. A really good tip I have is credibility is king and content is king, and they go hand in hand. Over in Australia, we have a strong trust mechanism. We're very savvy with our bullshit meters, and we don't tend to buy into a lot of rah. It's got to be very credibility based. If I was to say one tip right now for people to implement within their business straight away, is get more testimonials, more business cases, proof of their success. The three liners on websites saying, XYZ increased my sales, or did XYZ, Tom from Atlantic City, doesn't quite cut it as much as real authentic content and real authentic engagement from consumers. So my number one tip for most businesses that are starting out that need to create that content bank is testimonials.
Now, with a testimonial, and I know there's been a big push towards video these days, a testimonial, I actually had a question. I'll just dovetail here for a moment. Had a question from one of our Sales Authority Club members, Lloyd, and he said, what's the best way to get a testimonial? My recommendation was, well, look, speak to them, someone that's getting a great result. More importantly, get the rapport and say, and don't call them a testimonial, call them a success story, and say, given that he then has pre-framed, there has been some success. And I said, well, I'd love you to be part of our success story. Would you like to put something together? And if the person said yes, I said, well, give them some questions to answer. Now, the question I'll have for you, is it better to have a written testimonial, or is it better to have a 2 to 4 minute video testimonial?
Look, if you're sharing it on social media, video is always king at the moment. Like if you look at the Facebook parameters, majority of digital space platforms are moving on to native content, and they want video. Everyone's starting to move towards video.
I'm going to jump in here. Native content. Some people won't know what that means. What does that mean?
So native content is content you upload directly into the platform. So for instance, let's take LinkedIn or Facebook for that example. You're making a specific bit of content for that platform and then uploading that content to that platform, and not sending consumers everywhere else. So example, Facebook is very protective of its user experience. Also, Facebook wants you to connect and interact with brands on their platform. If you're sending them off platform, that may affect your Facebook quality score and could damage your organic reach. So making content that's specifically uploaded. LinkedIn is absolutely fantastic for this. They're pushing more towards video. You can write posts, blog posts in LinkedIn now that'll lengthy enough to really create that engagement. And that's what native content is, making that content specific for the platform, whether it be written, verbal, or otherwise.
Okay, so just to recap, so native content is better because you do your video and then you upload it directly into that platform, not put it on YouTube and then send them to YouTube, or put it on Facebook and then get LinkedIn to go to Facebook, because your score won't rate as high. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. And like I've been working with Facebook, with their offices in Singapore for probably close on the last 2 years. Um, Facebook wants to protect its user experience, and they want you to spend as much time on platform as possible. And that sort of protects the ability to stay on platform and operate everywhere you need to go, and you don't need to go off site. It's simultaneously to, you know, if you have a website, you don't want to send someone off site. You want to keep them on site for as long as possible.
So I was actually talking to a web specialist just the other day, and one of the things they were talking about, which you just brought up, was a quality score. Now, that was a new dialogue for me. As you know, I'm not the right into that, and I'm just recently, the last 4 years, been going back to school. What they said to me was a quality score is critical, especially on your, let's say, your website, because the way you get a good quality score is to make sure when they go to your website, they click two things, not just one. It has to be click, click. Now, that means that Google then sees you as, a better business than actually just going from one landing page or whatever to one click. Now, is that two-click strategy important when people go into, when they're doing marketing?
Look, I don't subscribe to the two-click policy. There's a couple of different avenues towards creating a great user experience. So to diverse from that slightly, you've got to sort of take it back. So if you look at companies like Google, or you look at Facebook, Facebook's original purpose was always to bring people together and connect friends. Google's main purpose was always to supply information as quick as possible. So when you start advertising or paid advertising, you start to look at the fact that play by the rules of what Google want. They want you to supply great content and awesome user experience, and give that end consumer as much information and value as possible. And that's where the quality score comes into place. So the two-click, essentially, if we look at the two-click, another way of putting it is having an engaging site that gives people more information and more value, which means that they're going to spend more time there, they're going to click more options, and that's going to increase that quality score. The same thing if you're running campaigns through Facebook, for instance. You'll notice that there's a quality score there, and Facebook will scrape your landing page or the destination you're trying to send people to and see if it's any good. Does your copy of your ad relate to the copy that's on the landing page? Does the user experience complement Facebook's user experience? And what that's going to do is increase your quality score from a paid ads point of view.
Now, a good quality score that you are ranked more highly on Google, and also on Facebook, you'll get it out to more people. So, guys, take note of that, because that was news to me. You might know it, but I thought that was something that I just didn't know. Just like those pixels that we talked about a few weeks back. Now, Travis, lead generation is a big thing. Now, you actually are part of a health club chain, and you actually launched that club. And you actually then did their launch strategies, plus all their engagement strategies and so forth. Now, because you've actually had your own business, and you also work with other businesses outside of that conglomerate, so fitness, you go into other genres. What are some of the things that actually have to take place now, and how has lead generation changed? Should we just have lots of social media stuff, or do we need to mix it up a bit?
This is an exciting question, but it's also, I could talk for hours on this, how things have changed. What we're looking at now is the turn of 2020, is we're more looking at like the customer's journey. Like, how are they feeling through the whole process? How are they engaging? Now, the challenge is two parts. Most companies don't have the foundations for success, and that's it. Whether it be identifying their buyer personas, to identifying what their mission, vision, value propositions are. Most companies will hit the market with a product, try and maintain product fit through paid advertising, and just kind of shoot a heap of shots out there and see what happens. For that, you need to sort of start to protect the customer journey. Now, like I use what they call, you would see if it's paid advertising, a lot of people talk about funnels. I use more what I like to call the race model, which is more towards reach, act, convert, and also sort of engage through that. So protecting the whole journey of how someone interacts. Now, lead generation and sort of sales are sort of always been kind of heaped into a bucket, but I'm a strong believer of what marketing happens complements the sales process through education and also creating the brand awareness and the value in that brand. The three ways people interact with the business are always going to be the person, the referral or what people say about it, and also the credibility of that brand too. So having those three core characteristics in mind whenever you start to look at marketing is where it sort of complements and hands over onto the sales process.
All right, Trav. Now, those three, I'll just stop you here for a moment because those three things sound like big rocks. Instead of going on to the next stage where people are going to say, that sounds good, but I don't know what to do. What I like to do here is to say, well, let's go through those three things and just give us some examples of what our listeners need to do to be able to take some action after hearing the good stuff from you. So let's just go through just one or two little things, just in brief, of what they would need to do for those three things.
Yeah, perfect. So when someone engages the brand, there's three little subconscious check marks of why. Number one is always going to be the person. So the person behind the brand, their reputation and skills. So it's always important to make sure you put out to market your story, your journey, and sell the story per se. The second one is always going to be the brand. So the reputation and what value that brand adds to that consumer. So making sure that you do have clear USPs, brand propositions, and not the generic ones. Like dig really deep onto what your ethos of the brand is. And then the third one's always going to be reputation. And this is where the testimonial core practice comes into play, or we call success stories or consumer cases. People tend to, in this day and age, 2020, they look at the reputation of a business, but they don't look at what the business is saying. They look at what people are saying about the business. So it's important to always have a good customer journey and make sure that you collect those success stories, because they're the three main components. They're going to be ticked off in someone's head the minute that they look to engage or put their details in and hit that submit button.
Okay, so firstly, the story. The story is about you, how you got involved, a little bit maybe about your experience and expertise. Number two is your brand, what your brand stands for, and having we suggest everyone has 5 USPs, and they could say we're the first, we're the only, or with a product and or service. And then last but not least, any type of, let's say, your reputation. If you've done it in the past, whether it's a new business, and you've got it, one of the reasons you've got into it, because you've had success personally, and now you've started a business to help other people do the same, but have some either written testimonials or a video or two. Is that right?
Perfect.
Good. Terrific. All right. Now, given that they're the things that have changed, what other things have changed, and what have our listeners got to do to get some traction? Because everyone has all these great ideas out there. Oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. Everyone says, yes, but how do I do it? We've got a small business, medium-sized business that wants to get out there and generate some leads after we've done our story, branding USP, and also our reputation. What are some of the things we need to do to generate that engaging process after all of the content has gone out there? What do we need to do to create a lead? And I'm talking about not a marketing lead, a sales lead. A marketing lead is, oh yeah, that was interested. I'll just download that ebook. That's a marketing lead. But what we've got a sales lead to say, hey, I want help from you. What can we do? What do they have to do to get that happening?
Well, look, that's a massive question, because it comes down to the whole journey part of sort of where, I guess, how someone engages with the business. Now, first things first, content is king and engagement is queen. She rules the house. So really investing in some great content, and there's parameters for this, and I talk about this all the time on the specific parameters that work based on platforms, and some tricks, or not even tricks, but just how to operate on platforms better. One is to start some great paid advertising, because there's a couple of different things in social media, or whether it be SEO or organic. The biggest thing is that you're going to get a direct ad from anything paid straight away. So if you need leads right now at this second, paid advertising is the way to go. Now, we start looking at paid advertising in the front end spectrum, trying to reach more people. There's two ways that people will find your business. That is interest and intent. Being very clear on interest and intent is fantastic for your business, because a lot of people will jump on social media expecting that it's going to be the golden ticket and it's going to take you to the next level. But keep in mind, what we're doing is when we put a product on social media, we're putting it out there for consideration. So what we're doing is we're taking it, we're throwing it out to the market based on people that may be interested, We don't know that yet. And that's why content's king, because essentially you're going to generate great MQLs, marketing qualified leads, but your SQL, which is your sales qualified lead, may be a little bit lower. Alternatively, we start looking at things like Google. Now, Google is what we like to call intent-based marketing. So someone goes to Google and let's say they're looking at product or service X. They ask, how do I get started in product or service X, or how do I get this? Now, understandably, you can have a higher SQL rate from that because someone is intentively looking for your product. Now, through paid advertising and great copy, we just need to make sure that we're the first one there that someone's going to punch on. Now, whether that's paid advertising or a stronger SEO strategy, which can take anywhere between 9 to 12 months to gain effectiveness in, they're the two ways that someone's going to find your business and generate a lead.
Okay, so I'm just going to recap that. So making sure that we just don't go on to more great stuff without actually getting the golden nugget you just gave us. So on social media, after we've done our story and our branding, we've got to have a little bit of a content, which is a little, and I would suggest unique content that puts you out in the marketplace as the expert and say, wow, I'm interested in what this person says. Now they could join a group because they're interested. And then once you've actually got permission from their interest, you can then say, well, why don't you try what we have? Then you have an opt-in box all good to go. But if you then have a marketing lead, then that becomes long-winded and sometimes quite time-consuming without ROI. But on the other side of the equation, you've got your Google. Now, as you correctly said, when someone goes to Google, they can certainly do research, but most of the time they go there with an intent. I want to find out something or a product that does this. So then they go to that stuff, and then whatever you've got on your Google landing page, which is different to a Facebook landing page, you'll engage that person with a higher sales qualified lead. Is that right?
Correct.
Good. A lot of people think that Google and which goes to their website or landing page, and Facebook are the same, but from what you've just told me, it's very different. All right. Well, that's good to have some clarity. A lot of people want to know about this, but they don't know those intricacies. And I find sometimes experts don't like to talk about the specificity, but what you're doing is awesome. So thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Come back to my initial second question in my first one. Social media. Everyone's talking about it. Have to be good at it. You could go to university to learn social media, I would suggest, but should a business actually be doing more than just social media? I know some businesses just spend all of their money on social media, and then others that just spend all their money on AdWords. Should there be a bit of both? Should there be some flyers? Should there be outreach? Should there be going to network events? What's your thoughts on that?
Look, I believe everything. Like, everything is good as long as it has an outcome. If I walked into a business tomorrow and they said 100% of our sales came from social media, I'd be very, very, very nervous. One of the first steps that I do when I ever walk into a business is we assess the foundations. And the foundation can be multiple streams of creating. Now, I'm still a fan of digital outbound. I believe that 2020 is going to be the year where digital outbound is more effective. If we look at, I guess, a database, an email database is still one of the most valuable, and I mean valuable, assets a business can have, because it's the only digital asset that you own. Apart from some design files on a website, if Facebook closed down tomorrow, which it won't, you will lose all that you've gained. If Google hicks up, you will lose all that you've gained. So it's always good to have a strong mix of different channels, whether it be blogs, emails, right the way through to networking events. Because at the end of the day, a networking event is still reaching out. You get to have the conversation, and marketing at the end of the day is just telling people what you do, just in different ways.
Okay, perfect. So the story is get out there and make sure that whatever you're doing, you have a target of a lead or an outcome. So outcome has to be established, but you got to follow the process. So I love it. Now we're going to go down somewhere else. I want to pick your brains and find out 2 lead generating activities, things that people could do straight away after listening to our interview, what they could do today or tomorrow or this week to generate some extra leads. What's a couple of ideas that they could do?
Oh, look, there is digital ways that you can do it. You can grow Facebook groups, forums, get out there. Like at the end of the day, it's connecting with other people. So trying to connect with as many people that may be potential customers or prospects of yours. So you can do this through LinkedIn. You can do this through Facebook groups. You can do this through Slack groups, forums. There are so many different ways. 2 ways I'm exploring even more now in 2020 is more of an outbound strategy utilizing LinkedIn. So reaching out to key people that I would like to connect with, that I feel my product or service would value their business, and then starting a dialogue outbound. So that is something you can do. The second one is start running some paid advertising campaigns. If you do have, whether it be FMCG, a SaaS company, so software as a service, or whether you're just a consultant or you have an e-commerce brand, you can start running product ads, or you can start, sort of getting into more of the paid space, depending on what your budget is.
Is that with an SEO or AdWord type campaign you're talking about, or is that a paid advertising on Facebook?
Yeah, so both, depending on, once again, interest first intent. And it also comes down to your sales cycle. So how much information will someone need before they start to convert with your brand? And social media gives you the ability to start giving them their value long term and then making them mature into a prospect. And it also means that you can also, in some cases, dequalify.
All right. So given that you mentioned that word LinkedIn, now a lot of people are starting to move to a LinkedIn, especially in that they say it's a business to business space, but it's actually to a consumer as well. People are selling or getting leads for their consumer products as well through linking in. And we actually had dinner just the other night, and we were talking about a couple of ways to actually utilize LinkedIn, because it's a big rock, but I don't know anyone that's actually come up with a strategy that really does work, but you did. Now, I call it the 10-minute strategy. I was wondering if you'd be able to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, like LinkedIn is a platform, I don't want to say it had a bad rap, but was always used more as a recruitment space. And it became, I'd say probably anywhere between sort of a year and a half to almost 2 years, they started to maneuver it into an educational platform. Now, the great thing about LinkedIn at the moment is, as far as the algorithms that it runs by, is back to what sort of Facebook used to be. So being able to increase that organic content and get your message to as many people as possible without pay to play, like Facebook is now, is very, very attainable. Now, a couple of different ways, or why I sort of like LinkedIn in 2020 and sort of growing forward, and why I feel like most business people should be on there to some retrospect, is because you have the ability to share your native content. So video content, long-tailed blogs, articles, posts, ask for engagements. It also has groups and forums of people that you can start to really connect with. Now, let's talk about success. Success, like any other platform, you've got to have compelling content. Content is king. Now, a lot of people sort of balk at creating content. If you are a thought leader or have anything of value, share it, share away. That's going to give you credibility. Now, what you do, we're talking about the golden 10. As soon as you post something to LinkedIn, the algorithm usually has a 10-minute window where as many likes, engagement, or shares that content gets on it will amplify your reach. And that's just as simple as it is in with the golden 10. So you've got 10 minutes to make hay while the sun's shining, get it to as many people to like, share, comment on it. And that's going to increase your organic engagement. Naturally, you're following on LinkedIn.
So I'm just going to repeat that. So they put their content on a video or a blog or whatever it may be, and you've got 10 minutes in the algorithm to get it out to as many people as possible. So obviously you've posted it, but how do we get it to a whole lot of other people? What do we do?
It's a good question. So there's a couple of different ways that I guess I hate saying the word hack, but make this system a little bit more effective is, if you do have a workplace with multiple employees, you can implement a Slack, which is like, internal communications. You can have a Slack group that whenever your employees or yourself post something there, everyone will jump on, like, share, comment, and that's going to give it a little bit of a trigger to kick off with, and then amplify it to other people and make sure your content sees as many eyeballs as it needs. The second way would be LinkedIn groups as well, simultaneously. They are like and share groups where people will jump on and share each other's content. Essentially, the law of reciprocity, you do it for me, I'm going to do it back as well. So that's always a key player.
So when you actually do that, you would do the @ symbol and put someone's name on it. And as long as they know to actually, well, in the next 10 minutes, please try to share this as much as possible, have a small group that sends it out to their network. You've got that 10-minute window. So when you've actually posted it, you've got to let people know to be able to know, like, and share it. Now, if you're just waiting for it to happen, it's probably not going to happen. So you want to have that, your team members, your friends, but also groups that you might want to share it into and say, please share this content now. So it's actually a proactive strategy. Now, what happens in that 10 minutes? Why is it so much better?
Well, what it initially says to the algorithm is how good that content is. So with that, if people are liking, engaging, commenting and sharing, like, understandably, the more people that share it, weights very high, commenting and then also liking. So, understandably, you use your hashtags that are business and content specific, and also tag, the team or relevant other people within your network to trigger it within that, and then share the link to your channels to sort of broadcast that out to the community to get behind that bit of content. But essentially what it's saying is, if a lot of people are sharing this content, and it must be really good. So essentially, if people are commenting it, then it's engaging. And if people are liking it, well, it must be good content. So essentially the algorithm's looking at those systems and saying, hey, let's get it out to as many people as possible because this is a bit of gold.
So LinkedIn will then make it accessible to more people.
Correct.
Now, I was also told something on LinkedIn the other day, and I'd like to get you to clarify this for us, or for me in particular. I was told that if you put an article in LinkedIn, that'll go to more people and stay there a lot longer than if you just do a post. If you've got an article or a blog or whatever the case may be, it's better if you've got something of really good content to put it in under article and not under post. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, correct. Like, it's always, once again, we go back to native content, right? So if you're putting articles in LinkedIn, educational value wise, it's a lot heavier than a post. So yes, 100%. Like, once again, LinkedIn are trying to move more towards video as well. So more video, more articles. The more time you invest in that platform, it's going to come back sort of tenfold. So yeah, like, if you do put blog posts in there or articles, 100%, it's going to be weighted slightly heavier than just, a 3 or 4 line post.
Okay. Now, I'm going to wrap this up shortly. So I just want to go into some of the biggest challenges you're seeing out there and how we can rectify them. We were talking before we started our interview about some things that, people are doing that are big challenges, but they can be rectified. Just like you share just 1 or 2 of those things with our listeners.
Yeah, look, essentially, anything in the digital space, the biggest challenge is we're sport for content, like, because we keep talking about content, but really good content is hard to come by. So you start to get a market that's almost educated or over-educated by content that pushes someone into overwhelming confusion. Like, but let's never forget that the first thing that you need to have in your business is really strong foundations. Like, that comes down to knowing your buyer personas and interests and where they shop. That's going to help you write better interest campaigns. Having great, compelling content that represents the value of your business is going to add brand credibility. and making sure that it goes to a website that isn't cheap or sort of ad hoc or thrown together. Make sure you invest in really good assets for your business, because a website is an asset. It's something your business uses to gain leads. So, make sure that the content is well written. Don't just outsource it to offshore to be written. That's a big thing, because especially in Australia, we have the ability to pick up English very well, and we speak partially different, and it takes 2 to 3 words out of place in a bit of content for someone to disengage or lose trust in that brand. So make sure that you do invest in great content and copywriters. But yeah, setting the foundation, making sure that you have different avenues of how you're going to connect and draw people to your website, making sure you have a great website, specific landing pages with a strong value order, and then make sure that you have some strong nurture sequences and follow up with that to make sure that while your sales team is there trying to get them on the phone, and more than most, it's most people aren't going to pick up the phone the first time. So while these people are in limbo, they're losing arousal for that product. So making sure that you're supplying them with different reasons and keeping that excitement level. So, when one of your sales team or yourself gets them on the phone, they're fucking really excited to see you and talk to you, because they've not only seen it, but you've pushed them to a point of arousal where they're educated, they're either qualified themselves, dequalified themselves if they're not right, and they're ready to engage. So making sure that foundational structure is built.
So in essence, what we need to do is to make sure that we get our branding right from the get-go. We need to get a story, brand, and then making sure there's some sort of, how can we say, proof that that's true. So we have those testimonials. We then need to make sure that we have our content. And I thought what you just said was quite interesting. I'm a big believer in making sure it's interesting, unique content, but it's also need to be written well. And you actually use the word copywriter. I'm a big believer in outsource. You write your content or dictate your content and send it to somebody that can make it, let's say, less words, but say exactly the same thing, but also has your flavor. We use Annalie Gale. She's an absolute superstar in copywriting, very quick, and she gets it. As long as she understands our brand and a lot of our clients' brands. And the last thing is making sure that your business strategy is aligned with the engagement strategy to make sure you get, let's say, sales qualified leads, not lots of tons of marketing qualified leads. Did I summarize that right?
Mate, you're a weapon at summarizing. I love it. Yeah, and that's the key factor. It's making sure everything's in line, and it represents your business and your brand well, because a lot of people don't invest in digital, but essentially it is your online shop front. And more people are going to find you digitally these days than ever before. And you look at content and creating great content. It does get a bit pricey, but keep in mind, every day the average person will scroll through their news feeds the length of the Empire State Building. So making sure your content stands out is 100% key, and making sure it represents your business very well.
All right. So given that you are giving some great golden nuggets today, and because you go into businesses and do these strategies, just want to wrap this up. How important it is for you to do a deep dive to find out what the plan is for that business, and have an ongoing strategy, not just, I think you said earlier, some people just do a marketing campaign, let's throw a bit of money at it, see how it goes. How important is it to have a strategic process, whether it's content, it's engagement, to make sure that they're getting the ROI when they get an expert like you in to help them with their lead generation, but also their engagement?
Yeah, it is very important. When I step into a business, whether it be the first time, a deep dive is essential. One, I need to know what I'm getting into. Two, I need to be prepared to work with this company hand in hand, go through the hard times, and make sure that we come out on top. Now, running an advertising campaign is just an advertising campaign. Like, that's what it is. Is it going to work? Is it doesn't? Sometimes it hits and it's ad hoc. But essentially creating a structure means that whenever something doesn't work, you can fix it. Whereas if you're just sitting there and sort of machine gunning everything out there, you don't know what's working, you don't know what's effective, and essentially what you're doing is costing yourself money. So doing a deep dive, making sure all the pieces are in play, the chessboard's set, and then starting to build that off that, understanding the customer. If you are an existing business, ask your customer, just talk to them. Most customers are out there wanting to give you feedback, and no one asks for it because they don't want to hear it.
When you go into a business, Trav, do you actually help the people with those questionnaires on how to ask the customer?
100%. Like if you have a strong customer base right now, that's an asset. They've engaged with the product, they've already bought it, where they shop, where they live, where they buy, everything like that, you've got them in the palm of your hand. So it's making sure that you can have a look at these audience that you already existing have, and you just want to find more of those. Whereas people are just turning a blind eye to one of their biggest assets, and that's their customer.
Right. That's good feedback, because go to your customer, say, hey, why did you buy our product, and why you keep buying it? Now they say, terrific. So you can actually do a strategy behind that. Well, tons of great stuff. How good is this, guys? Making sure that we got a 101 in some cases, but also a little bit more strategic things. It's a little bit more deep dive. So Trav, I'm sure some of the guys will want to have a chat with you. How can they get in contact with you to maybe do a bit of a deep dive for them in their business?
Yeah, look, more than happy to add any value. As I said, like my goal is making business successful. It seems to be my superpower and what I'm passionate about, what I enjoy doing. So yeah, jump on my website. It's travistelfer.com. And then just
hang on. Say that nice and slowly, because you've got to get their pens out, mate. You got to write that down. I'll actually put it in the copy, but just say it nice and slowly and make sure the spelling's right. Just tell everybody.
Yeah, perfect. It's at travistelfer.com. So TravisTelfer.com. Jump on the contact us page. Just pop in, you watch this interview, and I'm more than happy to give you 30 minutes of my time as a gift to see if I can add a little bit of value and grow your business.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much, Travis, to actually coming on there. It's always good looking at people and listening to what they have to say when they're actually in lots of other businesses, because they can see what works and what doesn't work. So it's been an absolute delight. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Mate, thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right, guys, what are you going to do with all the golden nuggets and all the good stuff Travis has talked about? Hopefully you've got some strategies written down and some things you might go back to your business and say, what can we do a little bit differently? As we know, implementation and utilization is critical. So what are you going to do? It's the doing after listening to some good stuff that makes all the difference. All right, so we're going to be continuing for the rest of the week. We'll be posting lots of little things along the way. So thanks for joining me today. Dr. J signing off, and I'll see you when you're a little bit older. Bye for now.